Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button, share your thoughts, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. The crash and the eyes in the dark eye don't remember the impact. Just the noise, a roar like a star being ripped open, and then the silence that followed. Deafening, unnatural, like the universe itself was holding its breath. When I came to, I was upside down. Blood trickled across my forehead, floating oddly before gravity kicked in again. Sparks danced from a torn panel above me, illuminating the crushed cockpit. The nav systems were dead, emergency beacon offline. No crew, no signal, just green dot. Every viewport showed green thick, towering vegetation and bioluminescent mist. I'd crashed into a jungle, but not one like Earth had ever known. The trees looked alive in ways bark and branches shouldn't move. Everything seemed to watch me. I unbuckled, staggered out, and immediately regretted breathing. The air was thick, humid, and pulsing with strange scents, floral, metallic, and something like ozone after lightning. I coughed. My oxygen mask was cracked, but still filtering. I grabbed what I could from the wreckage: a flare gun, a heat blade, half a ration pack, and the translator unit flickering but functional. The sun, or whatever passed for one hero, was fading fast. Purple twilight crawled through the vines. Somewhere deep in the jungle, something screamed. Not a predator, not a machine, something in between. And then I saw them. At first, I thought my head injury was playing tricks on me. Dozens of violet eyes, glowing softly in the underbrush, motionless, watching. My heart froze. I aimed the flare gun toward them. My hands were shaking. One of them stepped forward. She was tall, lazily 6.5 feet, with pale silver skin, hair like black liquid metal, and strange tribal armor that shimmered in the dim light. Her body was humanoid, but her proportions were unsettling. Alien, beautiful. But in the same way a blade is beautiful right before it cuts. She didn't speak, she just looked at me, tilted her head, blinked those eyes, so many lids. Then she gave a sharp, guttural sound, and 4 more stepped out behind her, each one unique, yet terrifyingly similar. They were armed with primitive-looking spears, but the tips hummed with some kind of energy field. Not primitive at all. I didn't run, I didn't even breathe. Maybe I should have, but something told me rune, and they would chase, fight, and they'd kill me. Instead, I dropped the flare gun and raised my hands slowly. They closed in. The leader, the first one, came right up to me, her face just inches from mine. She sniffed, her nostrils flared, and her eyes narrowed. Then she said something in a harsh, click-heavy language. The translator crackled. Nothing came through. Dead batteries. She grabbed my wrist and pulled. I had no choice but to follow. We moved through the jungle in near silence. The creatures, women, if you could call them, that moved like shadows, completely in sync. Leaves shifted away from their steps, as if the forest itself obeyed them. They didn't speak, but they kept looking back to make sure I was still there, still alive. Eventually, we reached a clearing. A massive stone structure rose out of the jungle floor, half temple, half fortress, covered in moss and glowing glyphs I couldn't begin to recognize. Fires burned in carved bowls, and more of them were waiting, at least 20. All women, all armed, all staring at me. The leader pushed me forward. I stumbled and dropped to my knees. One of them laughed, low and throaty. Another stepped forward, touching my face with something like curiosity, like I was a pet or a relic. I wanted to shout, to demand answers, but I knew better. This wasn't first contact. This was capture. They debated among themselves in their strange tongue. The leader said something sharp, and the others fell silent. She stepped up again, and with a sudden motion, pressed her palm to my chest, right above the heart. The translator on my hip flickered. A single word came through: stay. Then they left me there kneeling, surrounded by warriors. As the jungle howled around us and the alien stars slowly blinked to life above the canopy, I was alive. For now, but whatever I had just been dragged into, it wasn't survival, it was something else, something deeper, something ancient. The queens of the Wild Eye didn't sleep that first night. They left me inside a circular hut, woven from shimmering black reeds, sealed with glowing vines that reacted when I touched them, a kind of organic technology. The floor was covered in moss, so soft it felt like silk, yet pulsed faintly with heat, almost alive. I could hear them outside, laughing, singing, shouting. Their voices echoed through the jungle, in a rhythm both beautiful and haunting. like an ancient ritual under alien stars. I thought about running. I still had the flare gun tucked in my belt, hidden beneath my shredded flight suit. But where would I run? The jungle was endless. My gear was fried. No nav map, no rescue beacon. And those women, they moved like predators. I wouldn't make it 100 meters before being speared through the spine. So I waited, watching, listening. At sunrise, they came. 3 of them entered my hut. The leader, taller than the others, with a mantle of braided metallic hair and glowing tattoos across her arms, stepped in first. She looked me over, head to toe, then gave a sharp command. The other 2 grabbed me, not violently, but firm enough to let me know it wasn't optional. They brought me to the center of the village. It was massive, dozens of huts in a circular pattern, with strange towers spiraling into the canopy. Water flowed through carved stone channels. Alien birds flitted between trees, their wings glittering like crystal. The women moved like a society, organized, structured. This wasn't a tribe in the primitive sense. This was a civilization. I was brought to a raised platform. There, seated on a throne of bone and metal, was someone new, older, regal, and terrifying. Her skin was a darker silver, etched with deep patterns that shimmered with their own light. Her eyes, each of them, blinked independently as she regarded me. She wore a crown of woven thorns and bone, and her voice, when she spoke, made the translator crackle with pain. "You are the second." That was the first full sentence I understood. I didn't answer. The stars fall. Men arrive. They do not leave. Why? I hesitated. I don't know what you mean. I crashed. My ship failed. I didn't come here by choice. She leaned forward. Her eyes narrowed. Lies smelled like fire. One of the warriors stepped forward and unrolled a piece of strange leather. On it, burned into the surface, was a symbol, a flag, a familiar one. Earth United Fleet Command. I froze. That wasn't from my ship. It was old, weathered. Someone else had been here before. Your kind comes, then vanishes. Your bones feed trees. They thought I was part of an invasion, or were experiment gone wrong. I tried to explain, but the translator stuttered. Words jumbled. Not me, alone. No fleet, no others. The queen or priestess, or whatever she was, regarded me in silence for a long time. Then she gestured to the warriors. Proof. I was taken to the edge of the village, near a deep gorge. There, they handed me a long spear, lightweight, humming with strange energy. A creature emerged from the tree, 6-legged, with a lizard's head and iridescent armor across its back. It roared and charged. They wanted me to fight. To survive. To prove I was worthy. The fight was chaos. The creature moved fast, too fast. I barely dodged its first lunge. My arm burned from a shallow cut. I jabbed the spear, missed, rolled. It hissed, coiled, struck again, and then, I don't know what happened. Instinct, maybe, or sheer luck. I plunged the spear forward, the tip striking beneath its jaw. The creature spasmed, twitched, then collapsed. Silence fell. The warriors watched. One of them nodded. Another gave a low, approving grunt. The leader, the one who first captured me, stepped forward, placed her hand on my chest again. Survive. Stay. The next few days passed in strange rhythms. They gave me food, meat that pulsed faintly, fruit that tingled on the tongue, clothing woven from some kind of living fiber, cool and smooth like silk but tougher than armor. They taught me basic words. Their language was complex, full of gestures and layered tones. My translator worked only half the time. I learned her name, Karani, the tall one, the leader of the huntresses. She was curious about me, asked about Earth, about why I came, about the machines that burned the sky, which I assumed were ships, or drones, maybe satellites. She showed me an old artifact, a helmet from an Earth marine suit, cracked, burned, with a name scratched out. Others lied, she said, touching the faded flag on the side. Promised peace, took blood. I had no idea what she meant, but I was beginning to understand something terrifying. Humans had been here before, and they had done something very wrong. Karani took me hunting with her, taught me how to navigate the trees, how to silence my steps, how to listen to the pulse of the forest. I watched her command her people, not with fear, but with presence, confidence, respect. She was their general, their queen, their sister, and slowly, without realizing it, I stopped feeling like a prisoner. I was still watched, still untrusted, but I was not beaten, not tortured, not killed. They were waiting, testing, studying me as much as I studied them. But for what purpose, I still didn't know. Then, on the 10th night, Karani brought me something, a small, metallic object, half buried in jungle moss, covered in dirt. I brushed it off. It was a human communications unit, burned, twisted, but definitely not from my ship, and scrawled across its side, faint but unmistakable, was a name: LT, Harren M. Dawn. I recognized it immediately. He was on my father's crew from a mission that vanished 5 years ago. My stomach turned. This wasn't just a freak crash. This was connected. The Forbidden Zone. The name burned in my mind like fire. LT Harren M. Dawn. My father's crew, his closest friend, a man I'd grown up hearing stories about, the tactical genius with a crooked smile and 1,000 bad jokes, declared missing, in action, presumed dead in deep space. And now, his gear was here, rotting beneath alien moss. I didn't tell Karani what I knew not yet. Her eyes watched me too carefully. She was testing me, always. One wrong move, and she might decide I was a spy, or worse, a second wave. That night, I stared up at the alien sky, wondering what else this jungle was hiding. By morning, I had a plan. They trusted me now. Not completely, but enough to let me walk the edges of the village unescorted. I used that freedom to map the area in my mind. Their world was carefully divided, zones of living, training, ritual, and one place they never spoke of. They called it Fetheri Nox, the hollow sky, a stretch of jungle where no birds sang, no insects buzzed. Even the wind seemed to die there. Whenever I asked about it, the women would grow quiet, avert their eyes. Karani would just say, "There, the sky remembers. We do not." That's where I had to go. It took me 2 days to plan my escape from the village. On the 3rd night, I slipped out under cloud cover. The vines that usually responded to touch had gone dormant. Something in the atmosphere disrupted their biosignals. I crept past the patrols, into the deep jungle, guided only by starlight and instinct. As I crossed into Fetheri Nox, everything changed. The air grew colder, thinner. The colors bled from the trees, vibrant greens, replaced by pale silvers and grays. Even the sounds of the forest faded, until the silence felt like pressure on my ears. And then, I found the ruins. Massive, jagged structures, part metal, part stone, jutting out from the earth, like broken bones. The remnants of a ship, but not mine, not even human. Something ancient, with carved symbols glowing faintly in the mist. As I stepped closer, my translator buzzed alive with static. "Unit compromised. Warning, do not approach. Do not." It fizzled out. I climbed the debris carefully, following a trail of old Earth tech, a shattered datapad, a melted helmet, fragments of gear that had no business being this far from Sol. Then I found it, a small glass-like panel, half buried, but still powered. When I touched it, the surface lit up, and a hologram flickered to life. A man appeared, worn, bloodied, haggard, a short beard, sunken eyes. He looked familiar. Then it hit me. My father. His voice was ragged, but steady. "Jeremy, if you're seeing this, I'm probably dead." My chest tightened. My knees gave out, and I sank to the jungle floor, eyes locked on the projection. "The lead to us, Fleet Command." This planet hit wasn't an accident. They wanted to see if AI-human integration could take root in a natural environment. The locals... They aren't just aliens. They're descendants of our own experiments. Hybrid prototypes, abandoned, forgotten. I stared at the women in my memory. Karani, the others, their strength, their speed, their silence. We tried to clean it up, but it was too late. Dornhe stayed behind, said he could guide them, keep the peace. I don't know if he survived. I made it to the Forbidden Zone, found this AI core. It's still active. It's watching everything. He looked around, paranoia in his eyes. "Jeremy, if you're here, don't trust anyone. Not them, not the jungle, and especially not the sky." The feed ended. I sat there in the dust, heart pounding, the silence around me feeling suddenly hostile. The women weren't just native. They were our legacy. A broken, buried chapter in human history. And now I was the only one who knew. As I turned to leave, I saw Hercuronis standing in the tree line, silent, watching. She'd followed me, but she didn't attack, didn't shout, just stepped forward, eyes locked on mine. "Now you know." My throat was dry. "You speak better English than you let on." She nodded. Long time listening. There was no anger in her face, just weariness. Your kind made us, made the jungle, then left us to die. We adapted, we survived, we do not want war, then what do you want? She walked past me, touching the AI panel briefly. It dimmed. We want choice. Then she turned and walked away, back into the trees. I returned to the village at dawn. No one punished me. No one spoke of my disappearance. But the way they looked at me had changed, not with suspicion, but something closer to recognition, like they knew I had crossed the threshold. Later that day, a council was called. For the first time, Karani let me stand beside her, not behind. The elder priestess was there too, eyes glowing dimly, as if watching through time itself. The old blood awakens, she said. Now we must choose what to do with the last son of Earth. The ones who came before, they gathered beneath the twin moons. 100 warriors stood in a wide circle around the heartfire pit, their skin painted with ash and glowing root dye. Their weapons bone, crystal plasma forged, steel reflected the flickering flames. High above in the canopy, watchers, perched like shadows, silent, waiting. I stood next to Karani, but I wasn't one of them. Not yet, maybe not ever. The elder priestess, Vishala, stepped forward from the line of councilwomen. The way the fire played across her ancient features made her look carved from stone. Her 8 eyes blinked in slow, perfect sequence as she raised her arms. The second starborn has seen the forbidden, she declared. He carries the blood of those who made us. He walks with the voice of the machines. The air turned cold. Eyes shifted toward me, some curious, some full of hatred. Karani's voice cut through the silence. He did not ask for this, and yet he carries it. The jungle let him live. That means something. Vishala turned to me. What did the machine show you, Sky-Son? I swallowed hard. I'd replayed my father's message a dozen times in my head, but saying it aloud felt like placing explosives under the foundation of everything these people had built. They didn't mean to abandon you, I said. They were lied to. Fleet Commando leaders, they told them the project was just data collection, a controlled test. I looked around the circle. You weren't supposed to become what you are. You were supposed to die. Murmurs rippled. Like when through the tribe, they created you, I said quietly. But you gave yourselves meaning. You adapted, evolved. You're not failed hybrids. You're a new species. Something more. Vishala stepped forward. Her voice dropped. And what would your people do if they found us now? I didn't answer, because we both knew. That night, Karani took me beyond the village, into a cave, veiled in roots and glowing spores. The air was rich with memory, thick and still, the kind of silence that spoke of long-buried secrets. She led me down a spiral path that eventually opened into a vast chamber. At the center was a monolith, black, angular, humming with power. It pulsed faintly in time with something I could feel in my chest, like a second heartbeat. Karani placed her palm on the surface, and it came alive. Images flickered across the dark stone, fragmented memories. AI code woven with genetic blueprints, flashes of Earth cities, test tubes, battlefields. This is the core memory, she said. It holds the truth. I watched as holograms danced around, US scientists injecting alien embryos with nanite code, infants born with silver eyes and reinforced spines. A woman screamed in pain. A man begged to stop the project. The words human AI symbiotic protocol, V3.6 spun across the projection. You were made to survive environments Earth soldiers couldn't, I whispered. You were created for war. Karani nodded slowly. But war ended, and no one came for us. Another memory played. Heron Dawn, older now, standing before the same monolith. His voice was recorded. To whoever finds this, I failed. I tried to teach them peace, but some want more. The code buried in their DNA, some of it still wants to dominate. They are not all the same. Some will resist. Some will remember who they were meant to become. The recording ended, was silent for a long time. Then she said, there is a faction within the tribe. They do not want peace with your kind. They believe the time has come to finish what the humans began. To leave this planet. My blood ran cold. You have spaceflight? She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped aside, revealed a tunnel leading deeper underground. We walked down until the roots gave way to metal, real metal. And there it was, a ship, human design, but rebuilt, modified, overgrown with vines, reinforced with alien crystal and tribal armor plating. The seeds of war are still here, Karani said softly, hidden, but growing. I turned toward her. You're the leader. Why haven't you stopped them? Her face was unreadable. Because I am no longer the only voice that matters. The old ones whispered to younger ears. They say you are a signal, that your crash means Earth is coming again. I nodded. They're right. She blinked. What? My distress signal. When I crashed, the beacon pinged before it failed. Someone out there, fleet command. Maybe scavengers. Maybe worse, they know this place exists. If they come and find this ship, these people, it'll be a massacre. One way or another. Karani looked away. Then you must make a choice. Jeremy of Earth. Stay. Help us break the old code. Teach us how to choose a future that is not written in war. I hesitated. Or, she met my gaze, her voice low. Or, you leave, and let history repeat itself. When I returned to the surface, the village was burning. Not in flames but in conflict. A splinter faction had moved in the night. Weapons were drawn. Rituals defied. A warrior named Tavarukarani II had declared the time of hiding was over. The sky will come to us. She roared before the heartfire, and we will not kneel to it again. The tribe splintered. Chaos erupted. I knew then, the storm was coming. From within, and from above. And the worst part, I wasn't sure which side I was supposed to be on. Escapism freedom smoke curled into the canopy, thick and acrid. The scent of scorched moss and iron-charged weapons filled the air as tribal drums echoed through the jungle war rhythms, faster than before. The village had splintered overnight. Tavira, the warrior once sworn to Karani, now stood at the head of a rogue faction, over a third of the tribe. They wore no ceremonial paint now, just hardened armor, scavenged tech from the buried ship, and eyes full of fire. She called themselves the Awakening, and she had a message. The stars took our ancestors. Now we take the stars. They marched toward the hollow sky, toward the ship, toward war. Kairani watched from a high ridge, silent, her expression unreadable. The wind tangled through her silver-black braids, and her spear glowed faintly at her side. You knew this was coming, I said. I hoped I was wrong. The drums beat again, this time answered by others, deeper in the jungle. Loyalists, huntresses still true to Karani. They wouldn't let Tavira take the ship without a fight. But it wouldn't matter. Even if Karani won, the planet's secrecy was shattered. My beacon had lit up the sky weeks ago. And now, with the engines of a ship being reawakened, any passing satellite or drone would pick up the energy signature, like a flare in the night. I looked at her. We don't have much time, Karani nodded. No, but we have enough to choose. We returned to the cave, where the overgrown human vessel still slumbered. Its core thrummed, now reactivated by Tavira's engineers. They'd brought it to life again, breathing human tech into its body like Frankenstein awakening a corpse. Vines curled around its spine like arteries. Its engines growled softly in the dark. Inside the command deck, ancient logs blinked on cracked screens. One was marked Emergency Launch Initiated, locked. Karani examined it. They planned to launch before nightfall. Where to? She hesitated. Earth, or what they think is Earth. I turned to her. They'll be annihilated. The fleet won't ask questions. They'll see a hostile alien ship descending from a known red zone and open fire. Nuclear, orbital, maybe worse. Karani nodded. They expect to die. They call it cleansing. I looked around. The old console's interface was still mostly functional, at least partially. It was meant to be used with human biometrics, and I was the only human left. They'll need me to unlock it. I realized. Kairani looked at me, then stopped them. I stared at the ship. It would be easy to sabotage it. Just one overload. Command, a power surge through the main fusion cells, and the entire core would go dark for weeks, maybe forever. But then I remembered my father's words. Some of them want more, and some remember what we made them to be. This wasn't just about Tavira or Karani or me. This was about legacy, and what it meant to be human after humanity had failed. We returned to the surface as the sun dipped low and the skies turned violet. Already, the sounds of battle echoed through the trees. Spears clashed with repurposed plasma blades. Vines writhed as traps were sprung. Screams rang out, some alien, some horribly human. We passed bodies, some of Karani's loyalists, some of Tavir as single quotes, as sisters. Friends. Karani did not cry, but her hand trembled once, and I saw the pain behind her war mask. Near the clearing, That housed the launch pad. We found the last line of resistance, a small group of defenders trying to block Tavira's advance. They were failing, I didn't think. I charged into the fight. The battle was chaos. I ducked under a plasma spear, drove a stunned warrior into the dirt, and barely avoided a blade that hissed past my ribs. Karani fought beside me like fury given, form twisting, striking, her movements a blur of elegance and brutality. Every swing of her spear was final. Then I saw Tavira. She was taller than Karani, broader, armored, head to toe in scavenged tech. Her eyes glowed with nano-enhancement, more machine than woman now. Her voice boomed over the battlefield. The stars will kneel. She saw me and lunged out. Our weapons clashed. I ducked, rolled, brought the heat blade up, but she kicked me away like I weighed nothing. Her spear slashed down, but Karani blocked it just in time. The two women collided like titans, spinning in a deadly dance that ended with both stumbling back. Wounded, I hit the ground hard, vision spinning. But then I saw the control rod, still embedded in Tavira's belt. The override for the launch. I moved before I could think. Dove through the chaos, grabbed the rod. She turned too late. I drove it into the ground and hit the activation switch. The ship's engines roared once, then powered down. Tavira screamed. Karani took her down in a single strike. When the dust settled, Tavira and her followers were defeated, disarmed, restrained, or gone. The ship was dead again. The war had been stopped, but the sky had already noticed that night. I watched the stars with Karani. We sat atop the ridge, where the jungle met the horizon. I did what I could. I said, but I don't know how long it will be before another ship comes. Karani said nothing for a while. Then, will they come in peace? I looked at her. No, not at first, but maybe they'll listen. If someone tells the truth, she studied me. Then you will stay. I hesitated. For the first time in my life, I didn't know what home meant. I don't know yet. Later, I found the old transmitter still damaged, still sparking but just barely functional. I powered it on, and I began to speak. This is Jeremy Kale of the Earth United Fleet. If anyone hears this, stop. Do not attack. There's life here, and they are more human than we were when we created them. The last human choice. The transmission was sent. My voice, shaky and unsure, now drifted across the void through dead stars and abandoned satellites, carrying a message I could never take back. Somewhere out there, someone would hear it, and they'd come. The only question was, who would arrive first? Fleet Command, pirates, corporate salvage crews, someone worse. We had days, maybe weeks, not long, but long enough to prepare. The jungle returned to silence. The rebels who followed Tavira were disarmed and watched closely. Some remained defiant, glaring at Karani's huntresses with glowing eyes and clenched fists. Others were quiet too, quiet, mourning more than they admitted. They had believed in something, a destiny written in stars and conquest. Now that belief lay shattered in the ruins of a disabled ship. Karani gave no speeches, no public punishments, no executions, just silence and solemn stares. But I saw the grief behind her eyes. They had been her sisters. Her family, and she'd had to fight them to save the future. Days passed. I helped where I could, repairing damaged huts, salvaging clean water lines, treating wounded with the tiny bit of human medtech I still had left. The tribe began to speak with me more openly, not like a guest, not like a prisoner, like a strange, fragile ally. One morning, I found Vishalo, the old priestess, alone in the grove of listening stones. Her many eyes closed. "You're waiting," I said. She opened her eyes slowly. "I am listening. They are close now." I sat beside her. "Do you think they'll kill us?" She smiled faintly. "You ask as if the answer matters." I turned to her, confused. She reached out and tapped my chest with a single gnarled finger. "We have already decided what we are. If they burn us, let it be as ourselves, not as weapons or monsters or shadows of Earth's past." I didn't reply, but I stayed with her until the stars came out. On the 8th night, I saw it, a long, slow streak across the sky, too controlled to be a meteor, too deliberate to be anything but a ship. They were coming. I gathered what remained of my gear. What little worked. The flare gun, a cracked datapad, the torn sleeve of my uniform, with the Earth United Fleet patch barely hanging on. Karani found me by the edge of the jungle, where the tree line gave way to the valley below. "You plan to meet them?" she said. I nodded. "I have to. If I don't, they'll make the same mistake we did the first time. They'll come in, guns drawn." Karani looked out over the valley. "And if they shoot you before you speak?" I gave her a weak smile. "Then maybe someone will still find the recording." She didn't laugh. She just stepped closer, placing her palm on my chest again. That simple gesture, the same one from the day we met, had taken on so many meanings. This time, I understood. She was saying, "Goodbye." The landing site was quiet when I arrived. A sleek Vesa military grade rested among the flattened trees. Drones buzzed overhead. Scanners swept the terrain in wide arcs. The air tasted like cold steel and nervous fingers on triggers. And then I saw them. 5 soldiers, standard fleet armor, all armed. A 6th figure stepped forward, a woman in an officer's coat. Her eyes were tired, her mouth drawn in a tight line. "Identify," she ordered. I raised my hand slowly. Jeremy Cale, civilian contractor, formerly attached to the EUF vessel Verdant Silence. Crash-landed here 2 years ago. Their weapons didn't lower. She narrowed her eyes. "We picked up your transmission. You said there's sentient life here. AI hybrids." "Yes," I said, "but they're not hostile. Not unless you give them a reason to be." She stepped closer. "You're saying you've survived, alone, among experimental xenohybrids for 2 years, and now you're their ambassador." "I'm not their ambassador," I said. "I'm their witness." A beat of silence. She motioned to her men. "Bring him in." Inside the ship, I gave them everything. The recordings, the data cores I'd salvaged, a copy of my father's message, details on the buried AI, the failed program, the attempted rebellion, everything. I watched her as she read. She didn't blink. When she was done, she looked up. "You're asking us to do nothing, to just leave this planet alone, pretend we never found it." "I'm asking you to let them live," I said. "What if someone else finds them? Pirates, biotech, poachers. You know what the market pays for hybrid genomes." "I know," I said. "That's why you need to *** protect them, not harvest them, not claim the planet, just stand guard, quietly, from a distance." The silence stretched down. She sighed. "You know what I should do? I should flag this system for asset recovery and let the Senate decide." I looked her dead in the eye, "and they'll make the wrong decision." She didn't respond, but she didn't make a call either. They left 2 days later, didn't fire a shot, didn't leave a marker. They just rose into the clouds and disappeared. Back to the stars. Back to Earth. I stayed, not because I had no choice, but because now I did. I helped Karani and her people rebuild. I taught them what I could: history, medicine, engineering. They taught me how to walk with the forest, how to listen to wind, how to speak not just with words, but with silence. Some nights, I record messages. I send them out, not distress calls. Stories. So, if you're hearing this maybe far from now, far from here, know this: we made something beautiful, and we almost destroyed it. But sometimes, if you stop fighting long enough to listen, you'll find something worth saving, even in a wild tribe of alien beauties, even in yourself. The end.